Prepare the washing machine, Mom, because Furiosa has wet the bed, becoming a box office disaster, achieving the title of worst performing Memorial Day release since 1995. This must mean that this movie is an abomination, right? Something that we collectively as a society should denounce? A movie that we should publicly shame for its pathetic atrocities? Well, actually, the movie was pretty good. It had some stellar action scenes and a pretty enticing story. Almost structuring the movie like a superhero origin that gets to take place during a massive post-apocalyptic civil war, where we get to follow the life of Furiosa, seeing her as a trapped little girl who is stripped away from her mother and now under the thumb of Dr. Dementis, an advantageous warlord who is such a wild card that he's even willing to risk his nipples to get the job done.
I have sensitive nipples.
But Dementis, you see, he is in all of Furiosa's troubles because she is also caught up between two warring factions who are battling out for dominance of the wasteland. One led by Furiosa's captor, Dementis, and the other by Immortan Joe, the incumbent leader of the wastelands, who I'd characterize as if, Santa Claus got addicted to crack and was able to turn his elves into a cult that are willing to off themselves at any moment, on any whim, through the vague promise of glory. And to make Furiosa even more joyful and lighthearted of a movie, Furiosa gets traded back and forth as the future wife of both Dr. Dementis and Santa Claus on meth. But through Furiosa's wits, we see her break free and rise to a place of prominence, co-piloting a war rig, so we get to see plenty of Mad Max action in all of its glory. Now this all may seem pretty cool, but the movie's not without its flaws, as the cool action scenes cannot make up for its rather thin plot, lack of depth in characterization, and particularly with its weak dialogue. Chris Hemsworth did give a memorable performance, but nobody else went along with him. Both actresses for Furiosa were fine and likable enough, but certainly weren't going to wow you. Praetorian Jack, he was cool and fine and likable enough, but he's not gonna knock anybody else's socks off, especially as he isn't even in the whole movie. And what really stinks is that this movie is really long, but still doesn't flesh out its characters. And the pacing with its 2.5-hour runtime was a big letdown. Many scenes, or even whole acts, could have just been condensed. And the biggest pacing issue lies with its anticlimactic ending. Now, I do appreciate the effort to make a smaller scale, more intimate interaction between the characters in the end, but with how it was set up, there was really no tension with our main hero. The Dark Knight, that's a movie that tried to end in a similar manner, as the last two major scenes are conversations between Batman and Joker, and then the dialogue with Harvey, but it worked well there, as you were still fearful for how it would end for Christian Bale, Gordon's family, and the rest of Gotham. Where with how Furiosa ends, it just sort of feels like our main hero has it in the bag the whole time. But now as I am giving my thoughts here, it may really seem like I'm just trashing this movie. Yet, I'd still recommend Furiosa to anyone who wants to go see an action movie, as the good still outweighs the bad. Which leads us to the pressing question of our day, which is, why is Furiosa such a historic flop? Is it because Mad Max isn't in the movie? Is it because Mel Gibson isn't in the movie? Is it because the world is sexist and can't stand a female lead?
Oh, you stink!
Well, Dear viewer, there are a lot of factors at play here, but the biggest one needs to be that 2015's Mad Max Fury Road, a movie that was even more well received than Furiosa, nominated for Best Picture in fact, and seemed to gather all of the hype of all fans, still was not a huge juggernaut at the box office. And because of its big $170 million budget, Fury Road would not have been that profitable to begin with. And if Fury Road didn't do that well, how could you expect this spin-off of a spin-off where you recast the actress 9 years later to be some massive hit? Plus, as Nerdrotic, the best gamer on the internet, has pointed out, that because Hollywood has been putting out so many stinkers lately in the past 5 years, there has been a loss of trust in Hollywood. Plus, you add rising ticket prices, a bad economy, and theatrical releases going to streaming services just weeks after they released, you get circumstances where even decent movies like Furiosa, or The Fall Guy, or The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare have been leaving theaters empty, and 2024 is tracking 20% worse than 2023. Just being good isn't enough to make money anymore, because it takes either an exceptionally well-made movie, or a movie that fans really want to see, like a Super Mario Bros., or an Oppenheimer, or a Barbie, in order to make bank at the box office. It's not that people hate going to theaters, or that TikTok has poisoned attention spans, but people are less gracious in watching movies that are bad, or mediocre, or even decent. The box office shows that people are only going to show up to watch standout movies. So, the solution is not to call audience members dumb or uncultured swine.
Oh, you stink!
The solution is not to put out movies like The Marvels or Madam Web. But instead, take smart chances, lower your budgets, make some great movies, and most importantly, ones that your audiences really want to see. Now, obviously, that's a lot easier said than done, but with enough hits produced, the people are going to start to trust Hollywood again. And we can go back to the glory days of debating on whether or not Jar Jar Binks is a Sith Lord, instead of debating on whether or not Hollywood has girl-bossed too close to the sun. Now, after hearing me go on this spiel, if I am at least not the stupidest person you heard today, that must be a sign that you need to like and subscribe.
Thanks for watching
DUCKFINDER
on YouTube. For more premium content, subscribe.
Just like the simulation.